you have to stop looking at others that are not in our situation and look at yourselves and really look at what your spouse is doing and how they're overcoming these very challenging obstacles, and how they are as a person. That love and that strength you see in them is way more than anything else that you would get from somebody else who maybe is sighted.
Welcome to the See-Through Podcast. I'm excited to have you both on. I think this is going to be a very special episode. I've never had someone else here with me. So this is my wife, everyone out there. And
hello.
And I have Andy and Angela. I've gotten to know Andy, via social media. He sent in a question, been featured on an episode then, and he has a great blog called As the Light Dims. And once I read his recent blog that kind of discussed, how involved his family is and his wife, in particular, and how helpful, his family is into his vision loss. So then it kind of a light bulb moment happened, and I was like, oh, I should do an interview. I'll have my wife, and then I'll bring you both on, and then we can all share stories, and I can get advice from you because, I'm early in my vision loss. I know you're further on your journey, so I can learn a lot from you. And then at the same time, I was like, my wife can learn a lot from you, Angela, because you've had to adapt with Andy, and those adaptations or what we're going to talk about. So that's okay. The setup. Now we're into business. But how about I have to give my wife a chance to loosen up. She's very nervous. Can you introduce yourself to everyone?
Yes.
Spotlight's on you.
Thank you.
No pressure though.
No pressure. Zero pressure. Just spotlight, Natalie, go. Yeah. Well, obviously, my name's Natalie. As you can hear, I'm from London, and this is my amazing husband right here. I don't know what else to say.
That's good. Well, what do you do as a career?
I do hair, but I solely focus on color.
Okay.
Nice.
Yes.
Comes in handy.
Yeah, you think this is natural? No.
Yeah, it looks really nice.
He was a lot darker when he met me.
Yeah.
It looks good. I'm a little jealous. No,
yeah, it's free haircuts.
There you go.
Free hair
She gets
color.
free everything.
I get free keratin. Andy, you can relate, right?
Yeah. It's got to keep it tight.
I always kind of envy like just a shaved head because I feel like it would be nice, but is it not?
I'm a big fan. I committed to it about a year ago, and I just went, man, I'm gonna cut off that little bit I had left. I was all fading back, Went with it. No turning back. I'm a bald. I'm a happy bald man.
Yeah, because I see people who hold on. They hold on to.
Yeah, I had to jump off the boat.
I mean, at that point, you're better off. You're better off taking it all off.
The little lawnmower kind of deal going on around up top.
Yeah. And I'm just like, because it's a nice, to me, it's a nice, clean, sharp look, honestly.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that.
You don't look too bad yourself, sir.
Andy can rock a bald head. That's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad I got rid of that horn thing that was going on. Yeah, I'm just playing. My name is Andy, and Andy Ogg, and this is my wife, Angela Ogg. We are currently in Surprise, Arizona, and our two little girls are being our teammates and hanging out in the rooms and hopefully taking a nap so we can do this with you guys today. And it's so great to do this, man, and great to meet you, Natalie.
Yeah.
Likewise.
What about you, Angela? Let's get an intro from you.
Okay.
Spotlight's on you.
I'll say I go by Angie just because when I feel like Angela's just like so I'm in trouble or something. So I'm going to say Angie. I'm Angie. I'm from California, born and raised, but we moved to Arizona 2 years ago.
All right.
And I love Arizona. So I've always been a family person. I'm Latina. I'm also German and Italian, but family's super important to me. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here and nervous at the same time, and hopefully all goes good.
Yeah, it's going to be good, man. I'm excited for this conversation. You know, you just mentioned you're from California. I know you guys just went on a trip out there.
Yeah.
How is traveling, you know, with vision loss?
So I'll jump in on it. So like I would say I haven't gone to the doctor in a couple of years. The last time I went, I was at like 5% in this eye and 15 in this eye. This eye is pretty well like you know, like a drinking straw. If you look through that and then you make the center of it like you're looking through like Vaseline, maybe that's kind of where this eye's at. And this eye still has some usable vision, but it's hard. At home, I move. I mean, I'm very functioning at home and do all of our home maintenance and our chores. And I've got plants and gardens everywhere and really functioning at home. But then you take me out of the home and it's pretty well gone. So I use a cane 100% of the time when we're out of the home. And traveling's tough. You know, this trip in particular, my vision has deteriorated a little bit more before we left. Yeah. Like literally the week before we left, this eye just like got darker. And I'm like, all right, maybe it's a bad day. I'm tired, whatever. It just stayed that way. So we went on this trip and we stayed in a big Airbnb house and we thought that was like to be the best move, right? Big space. We have 2 kids and us, and I'm not a small guy. And yeah, it was tough. It was 3 days of pure cane usage, you know, to go to the bathroom, to go up the stairs. Oh, the stairs were so scary. Yeah, it was tough. And it was when we're out of the house, you know, I'm a very active father. So I make my kids breakfast every morning and I, you know, help a lot with stuff around the house, laundry and cleaning and all that. When we're out of the house, man, I'm useless. I can only really focus on
what he's doing. Yeah,
like making sure I don't fall down a set of stairs or hit my head too much.
Knowing the layout of my apartment is like great, but if someone, meaning put something that's not supposed to be there, I will run right into it or trip over it. So you got to know the layout, you know.
Yeah.
And the layout can't change.
No.
So vacation, you know, all new territory, hard to predict, you know, where things are going to be and know where things are. So I get that, you know. And you mentioned it's all cane, you know. I recently got an identification cane. I own a white cane too. I just never brought it out. You know, I'm in that weird phase where I'm afraid to use a cane because it feels so foreign to me, and it feels so I'll just go ahead and say it, unlike me. Like it doesn't feel like me. It's
I remember that time, my friend.
It just doesn't feel like me. So I was like, all right, I was talking to a friend of mine, Victor Mifsud. He's been on my podcast before, and he uses an identification cane, but he uses it different. You know, it's like a little longer, and it's like 44 inches long. So it's quite, you know, can touch the floor, whereas most, I think, ID canes are shorter. But I've been bringing that out, you know, at nighttime with me, and it's been even come in handy. I had my first save, you know, where the cane hit something where I wouldn't have seen it, and it allowed me to not run into it. And I was like, oh, this is what it's for, you know? And so I'm just kind of trying to wrap my mind around using a cane and not being so in my head about it. And it's a lot harder than I think it is. But, you know, another weird aspect of that is knowing that, you know, Natalie sees me with a cane, and that feels weird. You know, it's like it's almost like I'm walking around naked or something like that, you know. So I'd like to start and talk a little bit about, you know, when you both first met, what stage in your vision were you?
I was riding dirt bikes, driving jet boats, racing off-road cars. Not doing anything really lackluster at all. Having a lot of fun.
I don't think he can tell you like the stage because he never really knew that that's what was happening at the time. I think he just thought he had really bad vision, and I remember when we started dating, he's like, I just need to get LASIK and it'll be fixed. That's what I always thought.
My ignorance was bliss.
Yeah, it totally was. And but I noticed things when I was dating him, like the first time ever for his birthday party, he always goes to the desert and they have cars and razors, and all his friends have toys to play with out there. I never went to the desert. I never went camping in my life. So it was like all a new experience. And I got there at night, and everybody's driving, and he's like, I can't drive at night. And I thought that was weird. And I was like, well, why? And he's like, I've been drinking and I don't feel comfortable with it. And I don't want to do that to you. I want to be safe. And then he did actually end up taking me for a little ride with his friends, not by ourselves. But just like things like that. And then I would realize, like, we went, one of our dates, we went to Not Scary Farm. Like, it was Halloween time. So it was like at night, and you go in.
It's like one of those horror, like, like a haunted hotel.
Natalie would never go on those.
Yeah. I thought it was so fun. And so I wanted to go with him, and we went, and I remember him driving and getting kind of close to certain things. And I was just like, that's kind of weird. And then we would go, like, a lot of our stuff was in the desert, and he'd be driving his Razor, and he'd get really close to things. And I'm like, I've never been in a Razor. I've never been in this stuff before. So I just thought maybe he's just crazy, and he just likes to get really close to, I don't know. I was just like, whoa, this is crazy. I'm just like hoping I'm going to get out of it alive. Yeah, I noticed things as a person who can see good. But I just thought, like he said, it was just bad vision. I didn't know any idea that there was anything out there like RP or any of those things, because I've never met a blind person in my life, right?
Neither of us did at that time.
No. So like when we met, I would say, he could still drive at night, but I noticed, I don't think he noticed, but I noticed how he would get kind of close to people or certain things. And it really didn't change until we had our first daughter, and obviously we didn't get married before we had our first daughter. It's kind of,
we did a little backwards.
We kind of like just fell in love really fast, and things were just kind of chaotic with us, and it happened, and we just started to notice it more and more, and especially at night.
Yeah, at night it started to tank, and like I just couldn't see, right? And like I think as anyone with a degenerative disease, like you just find new ways. So I put brighter bulbs in the house. I'd go outside and put more lights in our backyard, or you just find creative ways of like adapting to it. And at the time, I had no idea that this was ever even a thing.
No.
And then it just turned a corner, I guess. And it turned a corner way before we got married. Like when we've had our first kid, she was a toddler. Remember that day when
he bumped into her in the kitchen.
Worst day ever.
And he bumped into her pretty hard, and she was little, and she like hit her head on the wall, and I was so upset because I never want anything to happen to my baby. That's my baby, right? And as a mom, you're just like, I just couldn't believe it. And at that point, like I felt things, like there were certain times where he would do something and I felt things in my heart, and I was like, what is this? This is different, right? And me being the person I am, I always try to address issues instead of ignoring them, which Andy wasn't brought up that way. He just puts them away somewhere and keeps going. Yeah. And I'm like the one
classic
that's like,
man move.
Yeah, I'm like, we need to talk about this. Like, what's going on? Are you okay? This is different, And I think I'm the one that kind of encouraged him to go and get seen.
Yeah, you did.
Which in hindsight, you kind of feel bad because who knew that it was going to be
what
it
happened,
was.
whether we knew what it was or wasn't.
So we kind of just went into it not even knowing that this was going to be what it was. And we even got married, and I still didn't know really until shortly after we got married.
Yeah, we got married in October of 2016, and we got diagnosed, I believe, in 2017.
Yeah.
And then like in the beginning of in February.
Yeah.
Like the first part of February of 2017 is when we first like got the name and went to do all the testing and all that stuff, and we finally got the name, and that was a little bit of a shell shocker. And we went home and went to Dr. Google and found out what it actually was, because the doctors don't say anything. They're like, you're not going to see very well. Okay.
See ya.
What does that mean? But we still decided to have our second kid after that, and I stopped driving then.
You're going too far ahead. Hold on.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so to answer your question, it's really kind of hard to tell you what that was, just because we didn't know. But we found out after we got married, and it was really hard. It was very, very hard.
Yeah, that's helpful, because I like to, what I want to do is paint like a timeline, for everyone listening, because, your timeline you're further on the timeline than I am. So it's like, like for example, I bumped into my nieces and nephews when I go home and they're all there. I'll turn around, I'll literally like run them over, and they'll fall down. And one time they cried, and I feel terrible. And
it's a worse feeling.
Yeah, I don't know.
Really
they don't understand it either, you know.
No,
Yeah.
nobody does.
But, you know, Natalie, let's say I wasn't diagnosed, because I was diagnosed when I was young just because my mom had RP, you know.
Yeah.
Let's say I wasn't diagnosed. Would you know that I had something visually like going on?
You know what? I think it's going to be hard for me to separate me trying to think me not knowing to me knowing right now because he does have so much, not so much, but he does have quite a bit of vision to where he does a lot of stuff by himself and he doesn't need me. So I notice things because I know, if that makes sense.
It does.
But some of the
definitely
things
does.
he does is so small because, to be honest, me and myself, I'm so clumsy and I miss things myself. So it's really bad. He thinks, he jokes thinking that I think I might have it because I don't see half the stuff sometimes.
Yeah, I'm like, you have RP?
Yeah, you have yours, like, because I'm like, I didn't see it. I honestly, I don't want to answer it in a way thinking, yes, I probably would have noticed, just because there's so many times where I'm like, oh, by the way, this is there. And he goes, I see it, you know, to me. And I'm like, well, I don't know. And then if I don't point something out, he's like,
There's
why
a
didn't you
broken
tell
wine
me?
glass somewhere.
And
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
So I don't know, say I'm thinking of beginning when we're dating, before he told me, I didn't notice a thing.
Well, you also,
I didn't notice anything.
It's also like to Andy's point, you get good at working around it.
Yes.
You know,
that
I
was
would
my-
pick certain
that was
places
my
to go
life,
on
yeah.
dates and everything, you know. So yeah, and if you having something to drink, like most of our first dates involved alcohol, you know, you can kind of, I bumped into you, it's a little bit,
Yeah, exactly.
you know.
Exactly.
So
Bro,
there's
that was my excuse for like
That was his MO.
5 years. Like,
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
I can't do that tonight. Too tipsy, you know, had one too many or whatever, and then that was kind of how I got out of everything at night.
yeah, it's a good one, honestly.
It worked good. It worked good.
Yeah, but you know, yeah. So Natalie will get frustrated with me sometimes because I'll get frustrated because I'll trip over something and I'll be like, why didn't you point that out? And then the times where she does point it out, I'll see it sometimes. I'll be like, I see it, and then I get frustrated at because I'm like, I see it, and I know that's not fair. I know that doesn't make me sound good, but
I've been there.
I think for
fine.
me,
You're fine.
it's just a case of at what point do you not see it anymore? That's what I don't know. And he can't exactly tell me because he can't show me. And then,
You'll
like,
learn.
what point is it too late for me to warn you? You know what I mean? Or sometimes
Yeah.
I might do it too soon because it might be further back. So it's in
I'm
his
letting
view.
you talk on this one because
So it's-
this is all your life, girl.
I don't think that will ever get easier.
Okay.
Sorry. It's just kind of like one of those things where it's either they literally don't see it or they do see it, and then or it's an acceptance thing. You know, as a man, especially, you know, they don't want this happening to them, right? As a man, like, it's your pride. It's a lot of things, right? Like, I'm not a man, but I can only imagine. And, you know, they want to try to do as much as they can for as long as they can. And I remember that with Andy, like, there was times where I was like you, I don't know when to say or not to say. And like,
Yeah.
I kind of was more quiet about it because that's just how I am. I would just kind of let him figure it out. And then there was times where like, I knew I could say something right before something happened. Just like, stop, you know, like, but not always. And he had to break things and you feel terrible. You feel like it's your fault because you didn't say anything.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the hard part about being the spouse of somebody who's going through this. It's like you kind of have to learn and he's different than Andy, right? So like you know him better than anyone else, and you're going to keep learning about him and the situation as you guys, you know, grow in this and everything. And I think it's just part of that. It's part of the adjustment. And the thing about it is you never know when it's going to change. There's no like timeline that you can go off of at some medical website that tells you this is when it's going to happen, because everybody's different with RP, like everyone. So all I can say is just like, don't be so hard on yourself. And if he gets upset at you, like, don't take it personal. I've had to tell myself that so many times. Compassion is like the biggest, compassion and empathy. Constantly putting myself in his shoes, constantly thinking about what he's going through and how he's getting through his day and all these things. And it's really hard because like I'm not like the most selfish person. I think about others a lot. But you know, we're all human beings, right? At a certain point, you're like, you kind of get sick of like, I always have to think about him. What about me? You know? But most of the time that's what it is. It's like, it's a selfless thing. It's a lot about compassion and empathy and understanding and forgiveness on both ends, you know? Because at the end of the day, you love each other and you want to be together no matter what, and that's marriage. Like,
and I'll piggyback on this and say, yeah, like part of that too is Lance communicating with you. You know, it's a two-way street. Like the reality is, you know, just like our marriage became a part of our family and our marriage is a priority for us, this becomes a part of the relationship, you know, and like everything you choose to go do, whether it be going to California or a vacation or even just an overnight stay, it's like, it's different no matter what. It will be different. It might already be getting different for you now. Like it might already, you might have that second guess of like, I'd rather just stay in tonight or, you know, whatever, let's go to the same restaurant because I know where the bathroom is, right? You know, whatever it might be. It's all about that communication. And I didn't know that for a while in the beginning. I was angry about it. And it took a long time for me to be able to say like, hey, you know, we got to get rid of all of your wine glasses and go plastic because I have broken like 18
You know,
of them.
I've broken so many glasses. I've broken so many to where now I like, we had plastic ones for a while and I like the ones that don't break. And my old roommates before we met used to always make fun of me because I broke like 12 or so glasses in a year. And but yeah, it changes everything. It changes every aspect. Every little thing I notice I operate differently, and I think about just how completing things it just changes the way you do everything. And the fact if she's going to be involved in what I'm doing, then it's going to change what she's doing. And you know, and going back to, you know, talking about, you know, and that's the you know, Angie, you talked about how he feels as a man, you know. That's something that is true, you know.
It is.
Because, you know, and I like to talk about this as much as I can because it's like, it doesn't feel masculine to have to be led somewhere. It doesn't feel masculine to not drive a car. There's a lot of things that just don't feel masculine. And there's nothing that I can do about it. So I just have to learn to accept it. And then part of it's, you know, if I'm being honest, like those problems and my fears of not being viewed as masculine isn't really with myself. It's more so with her. You know, I want to be my wife to view me as masculine. That's the only, you know, thing I care about. Like
Preach on, man. Preach on.
You know what I mean? Like it's for myself sitting in my room. I really don't care if I'm perceived as masculine, but if I do care if, you know, Natalie sees me as masculine. So it's something that I stress out about, you know, in terms of me. You know, we want to have kids one day, and I get nervous about, you know, I have like this fear of if I'm out with my, you know, pushing a stroller and I knock it over or it goes out. I have like these wild fears of it, like going out in the street and I don't see it and a car hits it. And
not the car.
I have not.
Remember the Wild Animal Park when I ran into the wall?
Yes.
I did do that.
Okay. So let me just say something about the fear you have about the masculinity thing. And I'll say this for myself, and I don't know how Natalie feels, but for me, I think my husband is one of the manliest men I've ever met in my life. Not because of the typical stereotypes that they put out there on the media or whatever, but because of what I've seen for myself, the fight and the drive and the determination and the never giving up. And I mean, I think my husband is the most amazing person ever. And I do think he's masculine in many ways because he could sit there and humble himself. he can communicate with me, and he can ask for help. And for me, like, I think that's the most manly thing and attractive thing that I could ever ask for in a man. And I think you just have to, as you learn through this, you have to stop looking at others that are not in our situation and look at yourselves and really look at what your spouse is doing and how they're overcoming these very challenging obstacles, and how they are as a person. And that love and that strength you see in them is way more than anything else that you would get from somebody else who maybe is sighted. At the end of the day, like, that's my opinion. Of course, there's some things like, now I'm a woman that I cannot do because I'm a woman, right? Like, I'm not as strong as a man. So the only thing that I get kind of scared about is when we're in situations where I don't feel safe. Like, we're in an environment where I don't feel safe, and there might be some bad people there. How am I going to protect my family, right?
Yeah.
So what I do is I just say, I don't like this. We're leaving.
Yeah.
Like, I
We've
don't
learned to
want to be here. I'm not
trust our
going
gut.
to put my family in this place, and I don't care what anybody thinks. I don't care what anybody says. I got to go. I got to take my family out of this. And that's what I do. And I just don't put myself in situations where I feel like that's going to happen, or I feel uncomfortable, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think what you said is great. What do you think about that, Natalie? I want to give you a chance.
I actually agreed with a lot of what you said, because in terms of, someone who's masculine and who you're with, it's not how always what you see, on social media and TV. Mm-hmm. In terms of, say with vision and stuff, that's never once made me think any different. Like, never once. And I hope you know that. Only because, like, that doesn't define, it can happen to anybody. Anyone can have it. So, female, male, whatever. So, for me, like, I see how hard he works and how much he cares about me and everything he does. So, what should a vision have to determine that? You know what I mean? So, he's there for me. He treats me every single day. He works extremely hard. He's kind, caring. So, what does it matter? You know what I mean? So, then again, I understand from his point of view about the masculinity when I know he said it before about the driving and taking care of me. I get it, because growing up, you grow up, learn about certain stereotypes, and it should be this way, and that's it, right? Mm-hmm. But that's not always the case, and it's such a, for me, sometimes I feel like such a small thing. It's like and you know what I mean, between like how we are together. Yeah. It doesn't overtake the rest of it. So it's something we have to deal with. Obviously, it's every day that most couples out there
don't.
And I get that, but for me, it's not like, how do I explain it? It's not something that's gonna be such a detriment to a relationship.
Yeah, I think I blow it up. I make it bigger than it is. It's bigger.
I do the same thing.
Yeah, it's just like this massive problem in my head that only I see as massive. But everyone else is just like, oh yeah, Lance says the
it's
RP
like,
or whatever.
There will be times like just this last trip, coming back, we were pooped. We were done. Our kids were tired. You were tired. I was tired, and they would have been. And I would have given my right leg to be able to hop in the driver's seat and get my family home safe and let her rest and relax, because she was tired too. Yeah. So there's moments, there's certain situations, certain things that happen where it's like, man, you just do anything you could do to help your wife, and help your family or help your team get through whatever you're getting through, and you just can't. And that feeling sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like there's certain feelings that you just kind of have to take on the chin, It's just like there's no way around it.
Oh yeah. There's lots of things like
lots
that.
Lots of those.
But I think that's part of it, and it's part of something that helps you get stronger as a couple. I mean, as you guys lose your vision and things get harder for you, and you have to be stronger and you have to try harder at everything, there's, in a way, as the spouse, as a wife, you have to be stronger and try harder as well in different ways. Even though you're not physically losing something, your life is changing. So you have to get stronger. You have to get braver. You have to kind of adapt what he does. Whereas so long, like I could sit back and watch and be like, God, he's so cool. He's so strong. Like, I don't know how he does all this. And then at some point it starts to turn where more comes upon you and you have to start to step up and you have to start to get stronger. Right. And you learn I learned so much from Andy, you know, in all of this. And I just want to be better for him and my girls. So at the end of the day, no matter like how hard that is, and I'm not gonna lie, I have really bad days. Yeah. You got to do what you got to do, right? Yeah.
The bad days, you'll have good days where almost like RP doesn't really interfere that much, and then you have bad days where it's like the hot topic of the day.
It basically, I used to say that those were the days my eyes won. When I have a bad RP day and it's like I can't. Broke glass, knocked over stuff. Just one of those days where nothing went right. My eyes, you know, they won that day. Yeah. You move on to the next one and you start over, but sometimes they win.
Yeah. That you know, that brings me back to kind of what I was talking about at the beginning with my identification cane and having to have Natalie see me with it. What was it like, you know, introducing the cane into life, going out to a restaurant, going out into the town, having public's eyes on you? How was that for both of you?
So when I first started using the cane, I put it off for as long as I possibly could. I'd start carrying it with me places, and there was we were at this brewery down in San Diego where we used to live called the Belching Beaver. And we were drinking some beers, and it was dusk, and I went to the bathroom. We had been there a lot of times.
Yeah.
So I knew the bathroom, and I walked in, and there was this guy that was like, I don't know, 5 foot tall maybe, and he was using the urinal, and it was a dark restroom. I didn't see this guy, so I ran right into him while he was handling his scandal. And he was not having a good day, and that really pushed him over the edge, and he was about to just straight up go at it with me in the men's room. And I'm like, bro, I don't see well. I'm sorry. I did not see you. I apologize. You know, man, it was totally an accident. I apologize. He was pissed. And luckily I was able to talk my way out of that, but it made that night, that was the last night I think I ever left the house at night without a cane. Yeah. And I always have it with me. I have to shove it in my back pocket. I use Ambutech marshmallow roller tip cane. I mean, they hang out in my back pocket, but I need it when I need it. So, but that was the last day I think I ever left the house without it. And since then, it's tough. I put it off for a long time. So when I use it, I'm focused on getting from point A to point B safely without hurting anyone or hurting myself. So I can't, even if I was in a restaurant looking around, I can't tell if anyone's looking at us anymore. But that's where you get that end of the stick. No pun intended.
I think it's a journey for everyone, and I think everyone's different. You know, so many people will tell you that who have RP or who have any kind of blindness that's happening to them, like, you need to get on it, like, you need to learn it before it gets too bad, and you know what to do. So, like, I'm very proud of you for at least having your identified cane. Yeah. Because that shows, like, strength, because it's hard. It's hard to show that vulnerability of you, right? Like, to put that out there and be vulnerable like that. So that's really good. Good for you.
Yeah.
But I think with Andy, like, that was, as my place as his wife, like, it's not my place to tell him when he should do it. He has to decide on his own. I can give him my opinion. I can give him my advice when he asks. But at the end of the day, he has to make that decision on his own. And we had conversations about it many times. And as much as I didn't want him to use it, because it's like everybody stares at you. I mean, you walk somewhere and everybody has to look because it's not common, right? How often do you see somebody who can't see?
1 in 400,000, I think.
And so, yeah, like, I was kind of, there's a little part of me that was kind of happy that he waited, you know, because it's a lot of feelings for me as well, but that's selfish of me. And one thing he did one night is he blindfolded me, and we went into our garage, and he's like, okay, I want you to get from this side of the garage to the other side of the garage. And he first had me do it without the cane, just being blindfolded. And he's like, don't cheat. And I'm like, okay. And I was terrified, and I'm like already scared of the dark. I know that's so lame. I don't know why. I'm just darkness. But I was like, this is terrible. And then he's like, okay, here's the cane. I didn't even make it the whole way. And then once I had that cane and I felt I had something to help me, it made me realize a lot. Like, okay, this is something he literally needs. Like, I know I should have got that on my own, but to actually feel it myself, it just made it easier for me to be like, okay, Angie, you're being completely selfish. Like, he needs to do this, and you need to try to encourage him in any way you can. But Andy waited till, obviously, he has to use it. Like, there's no other, he has to use it now. And it's still hard, guys. Like, it's
still moments.
I'm not like a person who likes to get looked at. I don't like to have all that attention. I wish everybody could just treat us like normal, but I think that's part of it, is like we have to just keep accepting that this is what it is. And eventually, from people we've known farther along than us, like, you get used to it. You don't let it bother you as much.
Point, yeah.
But I think deep down inside, it'll always kind of bother you. It'll always kind of be there.
Yeah, I hear so many different varying viewpoints on using a cane, and how some people are very quick to just pick it up and, but I'm not one of those people. I'm taking my time,
Yeah.
It has to feel right. It has to feel right to me. And I'm hard headed, and Natalie knows
me too,
that.
bro. Yeah.
But ID cane step one, hopefully it'll like almost like exposure therapy, just being used to having it, seeing it, on the table, taking it out at night. Hopefully it'll just kind of train me that way. When I make the switch, it won't be that big of a deal.
We did the exact same process, man. I have like 5, but we just started leaving them around. I have it open up in a corner of a room, start seeing it, start becoming more, it became a part of me, really. And let my kids play with it, and they blindfold each other and walk around the house with it, and they have fun with it until they start hitting each other with it. But it's a process of acceptance. And all that word, I use that word every single day. Acceptance, man. You don't like, oh, I'm accepting the fact I have to use a cane. No, man. You've accepted the fact you might have to use a cane. Then you have using it and that feeling and all of those reactions, and then you have needing it, and that's a whole different level of. Oh, whoa! I can't even get from here to here without it. Now I love it. Now it's become a part of your journey.
Yeah, and I kind of did a trick with Natalie too the other night when we were out. I handed her the ID cane, and I said, walk with your eyes closed, and just kind of use the cane to kind of tap the ground. It was just kind of a makeshift technique or whatever. And
one thing I noticed with that was everything felt way off. I'm walking with it, and all of a sudden, like, I felt like, where's the ground? Or like, where is like all my other senses?
Yeah.
I don't know, it's very surreal. I did it for like 5 seconds maybe, because I was like, it felt really weird.
You just want to like stand there and do nothing. Like,
yeah, exactly. Because we were already walking in the night with our dog, taking her for walks. It was already dark. So
yeah.
And he said, just hand over, and I don't know what it was, but instantly everything felt off balance for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was very surreal. So I try my best. I mean, and there's no way for me to understand, because I know I have good vision, but there are times where I'm like, what is it like at nighttime? Because obviously, for us, dark is, it's already dark, but you can get a sense where you're going. Mm-hmm. But there are times we're walking, I'm like, let me just try and see what it could be like, because he shows me like what it could be like at dark time, but... So with that, I tried my best, but instantly my senses were just off. I felt very off balance and stuff. So I don't know. I just try my best to try and understand.
Yeah, because I try to explain. And it's just almost impossible to explain,
Which I get, of course.
What about, have you guys figured out a way to understand? Like, Andy, have you been able to explain it in a way that's understandable? Or like... Have you set up any simulations? I know you did the garage cane, kind of thing, but
I've tried. I mean, I tried to. We bought some like vision simulator glasses off of Amazon. They were like $15, and they're like little paper frames, and it has retinitis pigmentosa, Stargardt's disease, and I bought those, and like those had really good vision compared to what I see. So like I stacked like 4 of them together. Yeah. And I'm like, all right, I'm pretty sure like this is like close. And I gave it to her, and she went, nope. That was about it.
So I think like what happens is what I've noticed is something bad happens, like he gets hurt, or it just like, I don't know about you, Natalie, but like if he gets hurt and all these emotions come up, right, for both of you, and sometimes like we would just be mad or we wouldn't talk about it, and now as it evolved and as it kept happening, like in bed at night, we'd be laying there with the lights off, and I would just ask him questions, and he would tell me and he would explain it to me, and I could get it to a certain point, but like you said, there's a limit that we can understand it, right? And I
feel like you understand it now today better than you ever have.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And I think because it's gotten so bad, like you kind of just assume I don't see you really very much, right? Like
it's just for observing, and I mean we're with each other all the time because he works from home and I'm at home, so I just see everything most of the time.
And she hears me too. I mean, like I drag Knuckles now around on my walls so I don't miss a doorway or I don't run into a doorway, you know. And like you kind of adapt new techniques. Like I don't really use a cane in my house. I mean, except when we have people over, like we're in the backyard and there's kids or whatever, like I'll use it then. But at home, you know, I can move around this house pretty quickly. But yeah, she still hears me, you know, tapping. I double tap the stairs every time I go up to make sure I'm on the first step, and I double tap doorways as I go through them to make sure I'm not going to check my shoulder. So you hear and see. You get both. That's kind of fun.
I think it's just kind of learning as you go.
Yeah, it's definitely an adaptation for sure.
It kind of, when you're saying about them getting hurt, it kind of reminded me of, remember outside the station when you missed the steps and you fell?
Oh yeah, we were leaving a subway station, and
he was in front of me though, so
I was all gawking, all
leaving.
confident because the station was very brightly lit. But once we got outside, I thought it was just flat, but there was like a little two-stepper.
Yeah.
So I just kept walking like normal pace
and
over the steps and just didn't see the steps. Fell on my hands, scraped up my hands, and Natalie was there with me. And
well, I felt like an ass because I was behind him, but me thinking, again, going back to, he will take the subway by himself. He will do these little things. So again, it goes back to, I don't know when and exactly at what point does he not see something. So if he was in front of me, he's walking, he's being confident, and we're exiting a subway station. In that moment, didn't enter me saying, "Oh, there's stairs in front of you," because I just assumed he saw it.
Yeah.
Right.
And then he falls, and then I'm like, "Oh, great!" So of course he falls. I'm like, "Oh my god, are you okay?" And I'm panicking. Lucky he just scraped his hand, and he wasn't mad at me or anything.
I'm good at falling. Like I know that sounds funny, but I'm literally good at falling. Like I fall a lot, but I also when I fall,
he knows his position.
I know how to not get hurt.
But I just felt like I should have
like,
said something. Is it my fault? Like he wasn't mad at me because he knew he probably wasn't checking.
It is not your
but
fault at all.
You know, because so it goes
guilt.
back to like I just don't know when at some point, because when I say, "Oh, that's," he goes, "I see it," you know, and if I don't, he goes, "Why didn't you tell me?" And sometimes I only just see it seconds before he sees it because I'm not paying attention when I should be.
I can say one thing to that: going blind hurts. I've broken a lot of fingers. I've broken all my toes probably 4 or 5 times. Noses, black eyes. What else have I broken? What else have I done? Toes. Falling off stairs. Falling downstairs.
Twisted your ankle.
Yeah.
Fell in the
my
pool.
ankle. Yeah, fell in the pool a few times.
But I want to ask you, how do you guys really feel about that when those things happen? Are there any like emotions or any kind of... Because like for me, I know whenever he hurt himself, whenever he hurt the girls, whenever it was an accident, and I know it was an accident, but deep down inside, I felt these really strong feelings, right? And even I felt like you, I'd feel guilty. Like, why didn't I say something? Why didn't I help him?
Yeah.
Why couldn't I just be there? Like, but was there more to that? Or are you guys good? Do you just like, oh, whatever, it's fine?
I'll let you take this.
In the moment after, I'm like, I'm sorry, I should have said something. I think my problem is I internalize a lot and I keep a lot to myself. So in my head, he doesn't know, in my head, I'm like, Natalie, you messed up. You suck. You should have told him. And like, is he mad? I was like, am I not, what's the word? Am I underestimating the situation? am I overestimating exactly how much vision he has? And because again, I get so confused, and I'm like, should I just not assume he's going to see everything just because it's like in front of him? Because again, it's so hard for me to know what he sees, because he's done tests and I'm like, all right, I see my hand, he moves it, I see it, now I don't, then I do. So I know he's kind of spotty around, but he has his central. Mm-hmm. So I think sometimes, again, I overestimate and then I might underestimate. So I feel like, should I just treat it as he just won't see it at any given time? Right. Then again, when I do tell him, and maybe it's in my head, but I kind of sense a frustration sometimes. It's like, maybe, seriously, I think it's in my head, but he's like, I see it. Like, you don't have to tell me every time. That's how the sense I get from the way he answers back.
Sometimes.
So I'm like, okay, fine, I won't tell you. Like, you know what I mean?
Sometimes
but then I'm like, if I don't, he is. Like, and I'm like, I don't know when. And so then when I don't, and then something happens, then I feel like,
it's not your fault. No.
I feel like a crappy person in that moment. And I'm like, I should have said something. And then my brain goes, is he thinking, well, what are you going to be like when I really lose my vision, Natalie? And
are you going to help me? I totally get it. I was the same way, and I remember that. And I remember, like, when you said that comment, Lance, about how she leaves things in places that they're not supposed to be.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I used to do the same thing because I was not as organized when I first met him. I was more like chaotic, and I just thought he was like OCD or whatever. And I'm like, you're crazy, like my mom. And but the truth was, it was all because it's how he works, right? It's how he functions. It's how he moves, and as it goes along and it gets worse, or not worse, but worse, you start to learn. And like how you say, you don't know, like, I don't know if I should say anything or if I should, and he's gonna get frustrated with me because it's a touchy subject, right? Something so small that you can ask anybody, like, it's not a big deal, but because there's so much pain behind that, right? There really is, because like me and Andy talk about it all the time, and I just feel like it just takes and takes and takes and takes and takes. So like when something like that happens, it's like my heart breaks a little bit. Because things are changing. There's something coming. Some differences are coming. And I think the best thing to do is just, even if he gets frustrated with you, I learned that. Like, okay, he's going to get mad at, and I literally have told him, like, you're going to get mad at me, but I'm going to tell you, like, can you see this? Or like, I'd rather say it than not say it, because then when I don't and he gets hurt, I feel so bad. Yeah. Right? Not that it was my fault anyways, but
then there's times and places, like here, you're pretty, like, you don't tell me a lot of stuff, but like when you're in the kitchen cooking stuff, you're like, don't come in here. Like there's, you're cooking, and it's not a good idea for me to go.
No.
But when we go to some place new, like a hotel or whatever, like she'll tell me everything. First thing we do when we get to a hotel is she starts putting furniture against the walls and like rearranges the room to make it bigger. And then I walk the room with my cane, count steps, and kind of map it out in my head a little bit so we can function. But there's a fine line, I think, between, as Lance, like you still have, like, I mean, I'm not saying you have like all your vision, but like you still have a pretty good chunk of vision, right?
Yeah,
from what I've understood from listening to your podcast is your central vision is still pretty pristine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, it's like
I've got
glasses, my vision's 20/20.
So I'm 20 over 200 with corrective lenses.
Without glasses, I'm 2200, but with glasses, it's 20/20. But what affects me is the peripheral vision, and then I also have like
the flashes.
Something called drusen, where I have some central blind spots too that kind of pocket in and out. Like, I can't see my hand right here, but I can see it here, which is weird. Gotcha. You would think with RP, it'd be not central, but like it's weird. So I don't know. It's hard to describe. And like to Natalie's point, she's confused. I'm confused.
Yeah.
I don't even know sometimes what I'm going to see and not see.
The hard reality is, and you never will. Like, I swear, we've had this adventure hundreds of times, man. Like, all right, we've got a good understanding of where we're at, and we figured out new ways that we put tactile dots on our microwave and our oven and our fridge so I can Next thing you know, it changes. Yeah. And then it's all about the next level of adjustment, and then it changes again. And And like that's that word acceptance, man, living in that word and just it is what it is. We got to move forward. Let's find our new way every time. And it's tough. It's exhausting.
I remember when we were around, you guys were around, like they're 30%.
Yeah.
We fought a lot. And I think I look back at it now and it makes sense. I mean, everything was changing. It's a big deal. And, you're learning, you know, there's a lot of learning in it. And there's a lot of anger and pain and emotions, very strong emotions on both ends. And I remember I was a lot like you, Natalie. I didn't say much and I kept it in. And I just was there for him. But eventually it did get to me. Like I started to have panic attacks. I started to get depressed, because I wouldn't talk. I wouldn't say what I was feeling. I wouldn't deal with what I was dealing with. And I still struggle with that to this day. But it's like, it was really bad in the beginning. It was really hard. And you would think it would be more hard now because he's got less vision than he does then, right?
Yeah.
I feel like life's a little easier right now.
But it's weird. Like you just get stronger through it all.
It's like a bridge.
You learn a lot. But it also does knock you off your feet at times. It does.
That leads me to something I wanted to ask, because, you know, I try to be, you know, keep it real on here and all that, but it's like, got some horns out there.
I heard it.
But yeah, I try to keep it real. And what I was thinking about, and you know, this kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier, where how I see it in my head with, you know, masculinity, you know, Natalie choosing to do life with me, you know, like, you know, doesn't have to, you know, and like, I think about it like this, like Natalie, when she was a young girl, didn't envision, you know, her husband being someone who's going blind, who's going through vision loss. And sometimes I feel like I'm shortchanging her, which is not a healthy way to think.
Exact feeling.
But there is some truth to that. Like, she didn't expect that. And, you know, I doubt you did too, you know. No. So like, there's you know, as I have to adapt my mind, you know, Natalie's going to have to adapt her mind too to change what she thought, you know, her new, you know, normal or whatever. And I just wanted to ask, like, is going blind as scary as you think it is whenever you have most of your vision? Because I feel like you know, you kind of just touched on it, like you've lost more vision, but you said life is easier now. And Angie, you said that you've had a harder time when Andy was around the 30 degrees. Do you think like that process of just going through it, grieving and daily exposure, just kind of getting used to it, is that just what's necessary? That doing your time, just putting in the time to get to accept it, or like what? How has it been? You know, it's just like
super good question. Yeah, like I would say, if anything, that's probably the best question like ever. But yeah, I think it's up and down through it all. I mean, there's a point where like, yeah, like we were in the pool yesterday and the bee flew. Remember the bee thing you saw? And you were like, huh, like deer in headlights, something's going to eat you. And I didn't even know it was there.
It's a wasp.
So there's a wasp. So, you know, there's ignorance in like not seeing very much. I feel like as you progress, like I do feel like the first part was hardest. I do think back. I got massively depressed. I lost like 25 pounds.
So skinny.
So I mean, like I got really depressed and it was not super fun time.
Very angry.
Yeah, very angry, not in a good mood, like ever. But that's like when I hung up the keys, or I was about to hang up the keys, and I was really mad about that because I used to surf and drive all over the place, man. So like it was an ending of my life. And that's kind of one of the analogies that we've cooked up in our world is we have a book and our life's an adventure. And yeah, probably didn't see this chapter in our book. But as we've read through it and created it, you know, we've had some absolutely amazing moments and an amazing time together. And I think that it will continue. Like, I know it's going to get hard again. Like, I have no doubt about it. Like, when this eye goes, you know, all my depth perception's gone, and it's going to be a whole new world, right? Like, I already know that. Like, I'll probably definitely start using the cane around our home. But we're just going to deal with that when we get there.
Lance, I think that it doesn't get easier. I think you just get stronger.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it too.
I
like your way better.
It's like working out, right? Like, I don't know if either one of you work out, but like, you build your muscle, right? At first, you're trying to do some cardio for 30 minutes on the treadmill, and you're like, I'm dying. This is so hard.
Yeah.
And the more you do it, the stronger your body gets. Not that it's not hard, but your body's stronger and more capable of doing it. And I think with this whole disease, it's like the beginning of it, and the beginning phases when everything, the changes start to happen and everything's so new, you're just like, what the heck is this? What happened? Like, my whole life is falling apart. Like, this is crazy. And then you have to go through these things. And I think sometimes in our suffering, you know, we learn to be stronger and we find our purpose. And like, for me, I got depressed. I hit rock bottom. Andy did too. And we realized, okay, I don't want to be there again. I don't want to feel that bad. I don't want to feel that upset and not be able to go on with my day and all these things. So what can I do to better myself? How can we do this better? How can we, like I said, Natalie, like, when you're not dealing with your own feelings, okay, how can I take care of myself better? How can I be there for myself better, so that way I can be there for my husband better, and I could be there for my kids better? And Andy was really angry and upset, and of course, but he had to find a way to channel his anger. He had to figure out ways to get that out, and also to put his pride aside.
Yeah.
And humble himself, and realizing that asking for help is not as terrible as you think it is. It's so hard to ask for help, right?
Yeah.
Especially as a man.
The man aspect makes that one tough. It does.
I think it's just like, it doesn't get easier, Lance. I'm not going to say that. If anything, it gets harder. I think I cry more than ever with things that happen, and every little bit that gets taken away now, it's just like, gosh, would it just stop? Because it's such a huge difference. And you want to give up at times. You want to just be like, God, this is terrible. Like, why are we trying so hard? We're just fighting against this wall. Like, this mountain I can never climb. But it's not true. You know, you have these bad days, you get through it, and then learning to rest and get that strength back.
The next day is usually better.
You start trying at it again. You start trying to climb that mountain again. And I think for us, like, even recently, you know, we went on that trip, and it really hit us like, wow, this is really different. It's really changed, and this is something we need to accept now. And I think it's just like staying at home, finding our peace, being with our kids, loving on our kids, loving on each other, getting that strength back and that confidence in ourselves, and going back out there and trying to do it again.
Yeah.
You know, just never giving up. Never giving up.
Yeah, that's
definitely
great advice.
Yeah, giving up is not an option at all. That's not an option with this disease. You got to fight hard. Dig deep, hard, a lot, and there's another side to it, man. I mean, you're on the RP, you know, the Facebook groups, you know, and you can see some of these people that, man, Lance, you look at you, man. You're running you're working, you're running a really successful podcast. I mean, you already are showing grit. You're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
You'll take it. You'll own it. I mean, it's gonna be challenging and hard, but I mean, you guys seem like strong people and a strong relationship, and it's only gonna get better. I think blindness, man. Like, I'm absolutely in love with this woman beyond words. Like, she is everything to me. And I don't know if I'd be able to say that as honestly if I had sight, because if I had sight, maybe I would be driving somewhere to work every day, and I wouldn't be at home all day eating lunch with her every day. You know, there's things that happen, and as a result of, you know, the situation. And you can choose to be pissed about it and hate your life, or you can choose to really embrace it and live your best life. Because, like, as the internet saying thing goes, you know, live your best life. Like, yeah, for what we're doing, yeah, we're living a pretty damn good life. Mm-hmm. And I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, it pumps me up to hear, you know, from, someone else. And that's the whole point, of having my podcast is selfishly I can kind of pick these conversations out. Oh, I want to learn about this. Come on, and I'll get to hear, just straight up ask. But I want, like, when you were telling me that story, both of your stories and perspectives, it's me able to kind of forecast what's coming. And that's something that I try not to think about sometimes. I want to ask Natalie, hearing, what they had to go through, like how did that make you feel hearing, that there are struggles coming? How does it feel knowing that we're going to have struggles in the future with this?
Hearing it doesn't scare me or anything. It's not like, oh, this is, what's coming. Because I kind of already thought, okay, what does the future hold? You know what I mean? In terms of it does progress. Because obviously we don't know at the moment in terms of his progression, like I've learned, everybody is different. It's different per person. So hearing what you guys had to say is just kind of more like reassurance, because I know it can get harder, obviously, but honestly, the only thing I took from this was like, yes, it gets harder, but you get stronger, like you said, but as long as you love the person, and like you said, you guys are best friends, I don't know, I got it.
There's a whole level of trust that I feel like me and you have that most couples don't have.
Aww.
Like there's trust and the companionship and that teamwork. Like we attack everything as a team. I mean, every single thing we do in life. And without blindness, I don't know what we've talked about that just a couple weeks ago. We were talking about what if I could see, like what would life be like, and would definitely have an off-road car in the garage and probably a couple dirt bikes that I'd probably hurt myself on. But in hindsight, like, yeah, man, it's a great life. It's a great life, even though you might not see the flowers and the sunsets and the one for me is hard is, my kids' faces. That one's still pretty challenging for me. I'm losing that definition. So that part's hard, but I mean, when you look at the bigger picture, it's like, it's a great life. If you think ahead and, all right, man, if it does get worse, what do we need to do? What's our goal in life? Do we need a bigger apartment or a bigger house? What do we want to do? And that's what we've done. We've been together for 10 years. Actually, this weekend, this is about 10 years that me and her have been hanging out and causing ruckus together. And no one I'd rather be with than you. And no place I'd rather be with than right here. Like I said yesterday.
Yep.
It's all what you make it to be. So I think you guys are going to do awesome. And Lance, dude, I admire you, man. Like I admire your hustle and your grit and what you're doing. I think it's awesome that we're on here, and I really appreciate it. And to be truthful, like you guys are cool people.
I appreciate that. It means a lot. It's a lot of work doing this podcast, but I feel like, one, it's selfish. I get a lot out of it from just what I learned from it. But two, I want to share messages that people like us, would have wanted to hear, whenever we, because growing up, I just had my mom, and so it's just nice to connect and hear other people having, success stories and not sugarcoating it, not saying it's all sunshine and rainbows. And, as long as you have love, there won't be any arguments and all this stuff. Like, so.
Oh, no, you're going to fight like crazy, man.
Yeah. So, yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And I have one more point I want to question you on. And it's tied into kind of what I talked about earlier. Angie, your identity, when you were a little girl, you didn't think, your husband would be going blind or using a cane. And then Andy, you probably didn't imagine when you took on the role of, a dad, that you would, be using a cane. So how is that? Because that's like a whole new world that I'm not a part of. At zero, like if you don't have a kid, you're not a part of that world. but I want to join that world at some point. So like how is, how does blindness play into, raising, children?
I think it's great that you guys want to have kids, and it's brave. I know for us, like when we found out after Peyton and we hadn't had a second yet, I was like so sad because I thought I can't have another baby, and that just broke my heart. I have sisters, so I wanted her to have somebody.
Yeah.
So we made the choice to do it regardless, and I do not regret it for 1 second. Going on what you said, I did not imagine that this would be my life, but I also have gone through some pretty tough stuff at a young age. I gotten my heart broken, and I've been with some pretty terrible people. So I'm just so grateful that I found my best friend and the person I love, regardless of his vision, because that's marriage, right? Like no matter what, it's not just, it doesn't say in your vows, like
sickness and
only
health, right?
when things are good. No, like it's everything. Anything can happen to me. Anything can, right? Like this is part of our life. This is our journey. This is what's happening. And to have kids, I think it does nothing but make it better for them because they become more compassionate, caring people. I mean, I wish you could meet our girls. Maybe one day you will, and you'll see it for yourself. I mean, everywhere we go, anybody who meets them thinks that they're the most sweet, special girls. I mean, I get told they're special all the time. And just how lovely they are and sweet they are, and just they bring light to everyone. And they're so willing to help their daddy all the time. And of course, there's times where, our oldest is 8 now, and her dad have like a really special bond. Peyton and Andy have a great bond, but she's realizing it now. She's really realizing what her daddy is losing. And of course that upsets her because she loves him, right? She loves her dad. But as her parent and as the one who's going through it, like we have each other. I tell her, you have me, we have each other. And she has a sister too that will someday realize it too, because she's 4. She doesn't really get it all yet.
Yeah.
But she's going to have Lila with her to talk about these things and experience it with her. And I just tell her, you focus on what you can help daddy with. No, we cannot bring back his vision. We can't create this miracle that they pray for him all the time. But we can do other things, right? What can we do to help daddy? Right.
Yeah.
And that always, she's like, I'm so grateful for you, Mommy. You always help me when I'm down and you tell me what I can do. And she turns it around.
Yeah.
And it's just like anything with kids, right? All kids go through stuff. And I know this is a bigger thing. I'm not trying to downplay it, but I really don't think it makes it worse. I think it makes them better people. I really do. And then when those are the kind of people you want to have in this world, that accepts
we need in this world,
that are not just normal, but have other, disabilities, and they love them and they care for them. So, I mean, is it hard? Yeah. Is it hard to go out as a family and have little ones with you in the little phase, and you don't have Andy can't help me as much, and when we go on trips, it's a lot on me. It's all on
you. It's all on you.
But like I said, you have this choice. You could sit here at home and not do anything and be scared. Or you can go out and try and show your kids, like, you know what, your parents are doing this, and they're doing this for you because we love you, and no matter what comes our way, we're going to do this as a family, and we're going to try to make the best of it.
Very well said.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I have nothing else to say. I would say do it. I mean, if you guys even have the thought, man, I love my kids to the end of the world, and they are so helpful, and like they're like the little yous. They're just, I'll be walking around and we got a pet bunny. We have a pet bunny. My youngest asked for a bunny for 2 years. 2 years he was asking for a bunny. So we finally went to a pet store, and we're not going to get a bunny, and we came home with a bunny. 3 little brown-eyed girls going, please. That did it for me. But, I'll be walking out of my office, and the bunny will be out, and it hops around down here, and I just hear, stop. And that's like, my brakes are on. And then sure enough, the bunny will hop right over my foot. Like, oh, well, that was a close call. Good job, girls. And we move on, man. And like, there was I think it was The Office. I think there was an episode of The Office. I love that show. It says like, you just grow your team, right? Like you just grow your team. You're not changing out team players. You're just growing your team. And that's how I feel is it's like, we have a pretty rad team. And
dude, I would have like,
they're a part of it too. Yeah. If
it was up to me, I'd have like,
she just keep going. Yeah. I don't know who paid for it all.
No, I know.
Yeah, that's good to know, man. It's good to know. I appreciate both, both of you sharing your perspective on that. Yeah, it's a lot to take in, a lot to process, and I just think it's better to get my head out of the sand and just learn and hear it from others, and same for you. Just like, instead of just playing pretend, which I've been doing most of my life, I'm trying to be more, proactive. And that word you kept saying.
I played that game for many years, man. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's hard, but it's that word you kept bringing up, acceptance, and that's all what it boils down to. It's like, I have to accept it, Natalie has to accept it, and only people that I will allow on my team are people who will at least try to accept it. Yeah, at least try,
Yeah.
And those people are out there, dude. Our neighborhood here, our neighbor across the street is such a cool guy. We had a party here Friday night, and he was here an extra hour later helping me clean up everything because he knows I can't see.
Yeah.
Helping me put all the decorations. I mean, just, yeah.
How do you guys feel about it, if you don't mind me asking?
In particular, like like having kids? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
I get scared that I'm gonna mess up and cause harm, and then that harm will make. It's like it's one of those perspectives. It's like, what I have going on right now is great. I don't want to mess it up. I'm afraid that throwing a kid into the mix might throw off something.
It will. It's going to snow globe, man. You take that snow globe and you shake it, and then it's just going to be chaos for a while. But then the snow will settle, and you'll have a new normal, like a new, like all your routines right now will be gone. But they find a new way, and I didn't get that for a while because I was the same way, bro. I'm very monotonously critically overdone on some things, and when we had kids, it throws everything, just those 500 sheets of paper in the wind, and then they all fall down somewhere, and then it all gets put back together somehow.
What do you think, Natalie?
I mean, I'm excited to have children. Well, I think we said one child, but I do get nervous, but I think that's just not related to anything of our peer or anything. I think just in general about how our lives will change and the financial aspect. But I do wonder in terms of, because, again, with it progressing, by the time we do have a kid, it could be 2 years from now. Could be a year. We don't know when this is obviously going to happen. But I know he just mentioned how he gets scared, walking the stroller, and is he going to hurt the kid? For some reason, I'm not worried about that because I don't think he will. I think if he still has, obviously good enough vision and he can see enough, then take care of the kid. I think that's just a worry of his own sake. But part of me, and I don't know if I'm completely wrong, but I think deep down, with his child, he's gonna be fine. I think he's be extra cautious. I just know it's a worry because he hasn't got a kid. He's never had to have one for himself and be with it all the time. It's different to being with his nieces and nephews. His parents are there, so he's not on that radar, that high alert. Like, is my child okay? Is my child wandering off or anything like that? Right. I just do worry. Not worry. I just think about how would it work, say, because he works from home. But I can't work from home. I'm the one who has to physically be at work. I can't just, do hair, mind control with the tint brush painting someone's hair while I'm at work. If that can be invented, that would be great. And I can sit at home.
Well,
so
I
just do
wonder.
wonder.
In my neighborhood that do hair at their own house. So
yes.
You never know.
I know. I did think about that. I think the only thing was my job. I do have a possibility of travel in the future with my work, so I do think about that. So, what if I do have to go somewhere for my work or something, and we have a kid,
And it's just me.
and it's just him?
You'll be fine.
I think he will be if it's, or do we just pay someone to maybe while he is working from home to watch the child, and then when he's done, that person goes home, and because again, just due to a job, that will happen. It's not going to be like all the time, but on the off chance, I might be gone for a day or two, maybe max. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I just think about that, and in general, my job anyway. Sometimes I leave at 9 and come home at 8 p.m. I understand having a child, I'm not going to work long hours. It will sort of go down, condense a little bit, but again, I'm not going to be here. So I do think about it. Mm-hmm. How does that work out? Because it's not like we can afford to just not work, until the kid goes to school. So I know we'll cross that bridge when that happens. But at the same time, his worry when he said about taking the kid out for a walk on the stroller, there's nothing inside me thinking, oh, he's just going to cross the road. And that's when he's going to get hit by a car because that one time he's walking our child. Yeah. He's not going to triple, double, quadruple check there's no car coming or something.
Right.
Or we're at home and he's playing with the kid. That's not a worry of mine. I understand why he is, but
I get
it's just how does the dynamic work if I'm out the house.
Right.
Working.
Do you guys have support out there, like family or
no?
Nope.
Anything?
That's why. So obviously my family are in London and his family in North Carolina. So when we're in New York, so we have zero help as well.
Yeah.
I think that's why we're sort of not ready right this second for a kid.
It's stressful.
That makes sense.
We're trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. It's stressful. Yeah. It's something will have to change, but
Yeah.
Well, it sounds good. It sounds like Natalie's fears aren't with RP. It's just money.
Yeah, which makes sense.
That's easier to fix, man.
I mean, that ties into it. We still got to pay for rent and you got to pay for the child. But it's just, no, I mean, obviously, don't say it that way.
No, it makes sense.
I just don't.
It was hard in the beginning.
Yeah,
my brain just doesn't go to, can I trust my husband to be alone with my child? It doesn't, that doesn't enter my mind when we have a kid. I trust him and I know he's going to be fine.
Right.
And plus you're at a really good place with your vision as far as like, if I compare you to Andy, right? Like when we had our second baby, Lila, it was a lot on me because his vision was pretty bad at that point too. So like he didn't want to hold her because he was afraid he was going to trip or something when she was really small. So
I wouldn't walk with her. I'd hold her.
He'd hold her and sit down with her, but like not like he did with Peyton where he was more, he'd move around with her and stuff. So that was different from the first time, and I had to do a lot of it. I had to do all the nights and everything, and then he kind of took on Peyton, the older one, and then we eventually, I was able to do both, and I took on both, but I wasn't working. Luckily, I didn't have to work. I could just stay at home. But, it did get to a point where we had to move. We moved from California to Arizona. Yeah. Arizona's a lot cheaper to live at than California. We made some choices.
And it's a lot nicer.
And you know what? You never know, and it all depends on what you want, what you guys want and what makes you happy, obviously, but I know for me, I told him when we got together, I was like, I want a family. That's something that I want and I long for. And if I don't get that, then
it was a non-negotiable topic.
I'm going to have resentment, obviously, because I want that. Like that's something I want.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. It's a big decision. And I get why you guys feel the way you do. But I don't think it's anything to do with you, Lance. I think it's just the logistics of it.
Yeah, it's logistics,
I think that's the difference. He thinks about that side, but my brain is like, well, how are we going to...
On the logistics side,
Especially in New York City. So, we talk about it too. Maybe we do move. So that it's a little bit easier on both of us. And
I know, Lance, in one of your podcasts before, you talked about how living in the city was so awesome because they had the public transportation, right?
Yeah, that's
a motivator for you.
Yeah, it's great. New York has a lot of pros and cons, but that's a huge pro for me. Is I don't. need to even think about a car. I'm not, that's nice that I don't need to worry about driving anywhere. And then there's also a lot of, you can get an Uber anywhere. There's ferries, yellow cabs. There's just a lot of different options.
Yeah.
Right. So it's going to be hard for me to leave New York if I ever do. Yeah. I'll have to accept that, being back to at basically who can drive me somewhere. I haven't had to think that way in a while. And, so that'll be tough. But yeah. Maybe we'll come out to Arizona, see your spot.
More than welcome to, man.
Yeah.
Your pool.
More than welcome to.
Yes.
It's calling my name.
Yeah. I think, we covered a lot of topics. I think we got a lot out there. Natalie even cried, so
Yeah, that was very unexpected.
I'll clip that one out and zoom in on her face, and
I'm gonna speak to him for a week if he does that.
I'll post that one first, and
that'll be the thumbnail on the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's just my crying
Make
face.
that the subject.
Focus point, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
And then I wanted to give an opportunity. You guys have the blog As the Light Dims. I want everyone out there to go check that out. I'll have a link in the show description, so just click that link and you can read. You have several blogs up there, right? And they're all kind of about your vision loss journey.
Yeah. When we got diagnosed, I was trying, was a mess. So I just started writing, and some of them were really terrible. Now when I look back at it, I'm like, man, what was I thinking? But that's kind of the evolution, and
yeah.
So it was more like a personal journal, if you will, and it's kind of it's turned into something cool. It's fun to do it every once in a while, not all the time. I don't know how you do this every week. I don't have the time for it. I admire it, man.
He never leaves his room.
It's a labor of love. Labor of love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm always on my computer.
1 until night.
Yeah.
But yeah, everyone check out that blog. That the most recent one is what sparked this interview. So I think if that entices you, but I really want to say thank you for taking the time to talk with me and Natalie and share your wisdom. It's nice. It truly is like comforting to know that I have a resource. Andy, I can hit you up if I have a question, and then
Anytime.
And then maybe Natalie, maybe you and Angie can talk if if you have issues, and it's just good.
I'll tell you just one thing, that one of the things I've learned through this whole ordeal is being able to talk with people that understand what you're going through and can provide insight. So I've got like 2 or 3 friends that are blind from different diseases or lost their vision instantly. And one of them, my friend Patrick, has been, man, he's a beacon of support for me. And as you go through this journey, it changes, and it becomes a part of you in different ways. And we would love to be of any kind of resource for you guys, man. Even if it's to rant because you had a bad day, I'm all ears.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's great to know. And, the community I built through my podcast has just been
awesome,
crazy helpful. And I think Natalie's seen a change in me probably because there's like the me before my podcast, and then there's the version of me now who does it, so she's noticing that I'm trying to wrap my mind around what this vision thing is. So it's confusing. So all the help is needed. So I appreciate both of your help, and I appreciate your time. And I look forward to this episode coming out. I think it'll be a really great one, and I think a lot of people will get a lot out of this.
I hope so, man.
Yeah.
You're cue to say something.
You always makes it awkward for me.
It's my job.
Every day.
It's part of the fun.
No, I actually learned a lot today. Because this is actually the first time you're speaking to somebody else who is, I understand you're further along. but somebody kind of went through it because we are in the beginning stages, and this is honestly a whole new world for me. I've never, to be honest, I don't think I've known anyone before with a disability. If I really think about it, I don't think so. So this is just a whole new world, adapting. I've learned so much too, but I know there's so much more for me to learn. There's so much more, and so much more for me to grow with. So it was good for me to hear from you guys, just especially how you've sort of learned and grown with it too.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you for having us.